Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're going to talk about NASA's picked SpaceX for moon mission. So let's dive right into it. Now let's understand NASA's point of view. So NASA is trying to do Artemis mission. Now Artemis is Gen 2 of Apollo. Now Apollo was like just go to the moon and come back alive. Now this time that's a bit different. This time is like go there and do something there. Basically don't just go and come back, like do something, like build a base, like stay there basically. So it's not just like plant a flag and come back. That's not the goal here. Artemis goal is actually to do long-term stay. Basically first time human will try to colonize it, like the early seeds of it. Now they were like NASA last year basically announced the system, and they were like, okay, please provide bids for us. So three companies were like, front runner in those sort of scenario. One was National Team, which had multiple companies working under it. For example, Blue Origin, Lockheed Martin, and Draper. So this was like all these companies were working as under one banner, that banner being National Team. That was option number A. Option number B was Dynetics, a Leidos company, and Leidos is already has some big name under aerospace industry, so they were like acting their own. And then we had SpaceX. Now at this point in time when I'm making this video, NASA has announced it that SpaceX is the final winner of this bid. Now as a government organization, you just can't say YOLO. So you have to explain it. The primary explanation is surprisingly simple. It's like, this is the cheapest option right there. There is no other option other than this. Because NASA, when they announced for this bid, they were planning to have at least two finalists, because they always wanted to have basically redundant system, dissimilar redundancy. So the reason is why only SpaceX was chosen is simply because at the time of when this bid was launched, NASA was like, okay, we're gonna ask for this much money from the Congress. Congress is like, no, you cannot have that much money per year. So because of that budget cut from Congress side, NASA had to cut down the money on the Artemis front. So the primary budget cut was like, okay, we can't afford anything else, so just do Starship, simply because it is the cheapest option out there. So that is the reason why NASA's picked it. Simply A, budget cut, B, in this budget nothing else will fit. So that's the two primary reasons which is given to the government point of view. Then we understand SpaceX. Now SpaceX, you have to understand, at this point in time, SpaceX is world leader compared to every single space organization on this planet. Like SpaceX is the king. So the primary reason for that is that they have track record of cost efficiency. It's like their efficiency, like how many million you're gonna give me and how much work I can do with that. That's on a god tier. Basically they can do things for $40 million that other company will take bare minimum of $400 million. So flat out the factor of effectiveness and efficiency is on a different level. Like you don't compete basically SpaceX efficiency with anything else. It's like it would be like a bloodbath. So another aspect from SpaceX point of view, they have already achieved a human rated system, and they, at this point of me making this video, they have already achieved 3 successful human missions. So they have a system where they have like they built it on under cost, and they have proven the fact that it's safe, reliable, and they have gotten NASA's human rating, and it's already carrying people to ISS, to Earth orbit. So fundamentally they have a proven track record. It's like, no, because be mindful, this puppy should not be the only option right now with USA should also have second option, which should have been either SLS or basically Boeing system. Both of them are behind schedule. This is the only thing that has already achieved it, and within budget. So fundamentally speaking, that gives them a huge leg up. It's like, no, I have a proven track record and I have done amazing things. So both of them combined alone makes it worthwhile. Then we come to another aspect, the cost. Why is so cheap? Development of Starship is already going on. Now, SpaceX would have built Starship regardless of what anybody else has done, because they have already taken contract on Dear Moon project, and they are doing this as a private venture. So sooner or later they're gonna have to develop it, and they are doing it on their own money. So basically the profit they are getting from SpaceX directly going into development into basically Starship, and they built Link project, that is satellite internet, just to provide profit to this puppy. So this was being done no matter what. Whether NASA would have chosen it, awesome. If they had not chosen it, still would not have made it difference. So that flat out gives them a huge leg up, because other people have, we have paperwork, we have mock-up models. No, we have actual thing we are testing. So that's a huge leg up. And another aspect is because it's self-funded. Basically SpaceX is self-funding it at this point in time. It reduces the burden on NASA. That's why it's so cheap. It's like, is this rocket cheap? No, hell no. It's just that SpaceX is A, very efficient with the money, B, they already have a proven track record, so they have learned a lot from development of Falcon 9, and they were already doing this. It was like all these three factors combined makes them the cheapest option right there. So this is the reason why SpaceX was perfect fit. Then we have to understand lunar Starship variant, because Starship there will have right now two variant, one Starship, actually three variant, one Starship, one tanker variant, another lunar variant. Lunar variant is like selected by NASA. Now NASA and SpaceX, they had a bit of collaboration, so design has been improved a lot. So this time they have a basically docking system in the nose, and the windows count has been reduced. So basically they are going with only 4 windows, and I would not be surprised if they reduce it to even for less than that. NASA does not like the idea of having a lot of windows. They add a huge mass expense. B, they also provide a very painful point of failure. So fundamentally they want to keep that number as well. Then solar panels has been boosted up. So basically in the original version they had only this small panel. This time like they have a lot of solar panel. The only question I have is like, how the heck you gonna cool this beast? Basically it's like, where is the radiator? Like ISS needs huge amount of radiator, and this is huge surface, so it's gonna get cooked. So how the heck you gonna cool this? So that's the another aspect is. Now be mindful when I'm talking about this design is just surface level. This is what we are trying to do. Be very mindful. Right now it's not in a position, okay, there's a complete blueprint, there's a complete design there. No, all those things are rough ideas, and NASA's sole job was just to make sure that rough idea is within the margin of error and within the realms of reality. It's like, yeah, because Dynetics had that issue where they're like, okay, we want to build the system, it has negative mass, meaning they had to remove weight. Even on normal paper mathematics, they're like, dude, your system is too heavy. So compared, like, that's what NASA had to check, and they're like, dude, this does work. It's just like, will it have 75-ton capacity, 100-ton capacity? It's like, that was the issue. It's not like, okay, we don't have minus tonnage. It's like, how good it's gonna be. It has like 2 airlocks, so system redundancy is a very critical component. Apollo system was done on a very serious constraint. It was done under what we call fear of war, cold war, so to say. So they were like, we have to do this, like we have to take a risk. So this time they are not doing like that. This time, no, it has to be redundant because we are going there for long term. And because of the huge height of this puppy, this is very tall. Like basically ladder will simply not work. Astronaut will get tired just trying to come down, and God help them to have to climb it up. So they have a crane system, and this is what SpaceX physically built to show a demonstration to NASA. Is like, no, what we are suggesting is something doable. So be mindful, it's not like just paper and all that, because Starship is already being developed. They are way ahead than anyone else, and this unique part of it they already showed as proof of concept, quote unquote. So they have a lot of development here. And main thing they're gonna be removed from basically this variant to normal Starship variant is basically heat tiles. Now primary reason for that is they are not intending this puppy to come back to Earth, like come back to low Earth orbit, but do not come back inside the Earth's atmosphere. That's the requirement for this. And removing that amount of basically heat tiles from giant surface of this puppy will help gain a lot of tonnage. So people are suggesting that minimum of 25 tons to, who knows, as high as like 75 tons can be gained by removing all those heat things and other things also that is like uniquely suited for making sure that it can handle the re-entry on Earth's atmosphere. And that's why you will not see wings also on this, because wing is useless if you don't have atmosphere. So removing all those things, basically making them as naked as possible, it gives a lot of tonnage, and that tonnage is really helpful. It's like either you just send astronaut and then clamp the flag and come back, or you send astronaut with enough gear that they can build an actual tangible useful habitats. So that's why Lunar Starship has been chosen. That was another aspect. It's like they have enough tonnage to carry whole modules. So be mindful, ISS modules are less than 30 tons each module. So if this puppy can actually carry 75 tons, that means even including people, this has more than enough capacity to like have a whole lunar module. It's like, tada! And I mean long-term lunar module, not just like, okay, this is a module, just come back to Earth. No, it's like a complete module, like put it and forget it, like a house. So that's why Lunar Starship has been built, because every ton counts, and removing this is an option now. Now if you go through the basically NASA's listing and documentation, one thing they will keep saying again and again and again, that is LEO. Now what does that mean? That simply means because SpaceX, they are building Starship, and Starship is capable of going to low Earth orbit, but it cannot go any further because it would have spent all the fuel, and it's not jettisoning basically empty tank, so it's not getting lighter, so it can't travel too much further than that. So they need refueling. Now primary reason for refueling is they need to accomplish 4 tasks. Task number 1, lunar transit. If you looked at Apollo movies, you will find out they did 1 orbit. During this time every system was checked, calibrated, radar, ground station, telescopes, everything they tested as much as possible, and then they're like, okay, fire the engines to trans-lunar burn. So they had to do that. That requires a lot of fuel. Then they have to land on the system, and then they have to take off from that system, and then have to come to low Earth orbit. They do not have to land, but they have to come to low Earth orbit. So all these things require a lot of fuel. Now, mathematically, right now, current assumption is that if they made a tanker variant, which is sole job is just to carry fuel to reload this puppy, it should take 6 systems, like basically 6 pass. Now, is it necessary to have that much passes for lunar system? Most likely not. I do not think they will need complete 6 passes. Maybe they would, but I think they would be able to do that in 3, because be mindful, the more you fuel it up, the less efficient your system becomes. Basically, that's why aircrafts never fly on full tank unless they have to. They are always like, bare minimum plus the safety margin, that's it, go home. So the same thing can apply here. It's like, okay, do not fuel this puppy up like complete full tank. So they might be like able to do it only in like 2 refillings or 3 refillings. Another aspect is they will utilize a Dragon capsule. Now this is the primary reason why SpaceX is so ahead. Is like they have a human rated system. So what's the benefit of that? Starship, because of its huge size, cannot have an emergency escape system. No matter what you do, you cannot design an emergency escape system, because emergency escape system means a system that does not work most of the time. It's a dead weight, quote unquote. So the only way a small rocket can do something is like you allow it to pull out a small weight, which in most scenarios is just a crew capsule. There is no crew capsule in this. This is complete one unit. There is no detachment point. There is no blast wall, detach this and sci-fi level and then like this section comes off. There is no such thing like that. That is why it cannot have basically emergency escape system. Then how do you make sure that if on launchpad something bad happens, when it is like completely fully fueled, it has a boom potential equivalent of a nuclear warhead? How the heck you make sure your astronauts survive? You don't use this. You send this puppy to low Earth orbit and you utilize Falcon 9, and Falcon 9 does have boom potential, but if it goes boom, it does have emergency escape system. So astronaut will be safe, and that system is already tested. So they know this part will work. They can send the system on orbit. It will automatically park, and then they will try to refuel it. And if everything works awesome, then they're gonna send astronaut utilizing this. Or maybe astronaut could already be in this, because the system is designed to be capable, safe, comfortable stay for at least few days. So they astronaut could be in this waiting. They could be like far enough where like even if it goes boom, they should not be inside any shrapnel zone. They could be monitoring the situation, and then like, okay, computers have given everything green, the refueling has been done, then they can go and dock with this puppy. That's why that nose cone is so important. And this puppy either be parked in ISS or parked directly in empty space, where they will dock again with this puppy, just so they can dump the passenger into this, and this puppy will bring it down to Earth. That's why Dragon is so important in this system. And doing everything in low Earth orbit gives them a lot of abort option, whereas like, let's say it's going up and this puppy goes boom, they're like, okay, come back. It's like there are many options. How heck, let's say they left it in orbit and something bad happens with this, whatever, like space debris or like malfunction or whatever happens, they can launch another one. So lot of option in low Earth orbit. That's why they did not like the idea of doing things like Apollo did. Almost everything was like on lunar system. They're like, that's too risky. Now again, that's enough. Like when you have a war driver, when you have GG amounts of money coming in, this time they don't. So everything has to be solid and reversible. It's like, oops, okay, come back. They want control Z. So that's why Leo is so important this time, and the fact this will allow them to actually bypass heat shield. Now let's come to the political aspect of it. Now if you remove politics completely, even then you will find out there is a valid reason to have a second option. You never want to rely on one system alone. A second non-similar option is wise. What does that mean? That simply means you do not want to be like, okay, I have space shuttle, let's make another space shuttle. That's a that's similar system. You do not want to do that, because if you find a core flaw, like there is a flaw in this system, you're stuck, because you have to ground the whole system. And it happens with a Soyuz system. It has been tested for like that many years. Still it has to be like, okay, if a failure happens, they have to ground the whole crew, basically whole fleet. So in those sort of scenario, you will always be stuck if you have a similar fleet. So they want to have something other than this. Like you have to have some way to bring your astronaut back if they are stuck in basically on moon, or you want some ability to, like, for some reason, let's say you are doing some major upgrade or something because it does happen, Murphy's law. So you want something to apply as a backup or break. So SLS and Orion, they are very good for this, and they were inherently built for that aspect itself. It's like, now of course there is no lunar landing option, but it can be added surprisingly easily without too much issue. So SLS is big enough, powerful enough, and designed with this sort of mind, and the first test is go to the moon and take a orbit and come back. So, and that should happen in a few months. So fundamentally it is already built for that. It's like it's a basically retirement of Saturn V. So it has the ability on principle, on paper, to have a module that can act as a emergency system, and they can launch it as every 4 years they can launch this puppy. It's so slow, so they can be like, yeah, you take you 4 years, just do something. So they have a two system, so if they find a fault in SLS, okay, SLS can be grounded, they can fix the problem, and Starship will work. And if they find fault in Starship, they can use SLS to make sure the lunar base is not abandoned. They want to make sure that that does not happen. So they do have this system. But what if Starship actually works? Let's assume the Elon Musk claims are very grand. Most of the claims are garbage, because if you looked at BFR claims, there's 300 ton to low Earth orbit. That does not happen. So of course that was toned down to 150, then toned down to 100 right now, and I would not be surprised if that was toned down to 75. That still would be GG, but it's come down to Earth, basically. You are flying, okay, come down. So what if they achieve that? What if they actually manage to do low Earth orbit refueling and then sending upwards of 75 ton to a moon? Let's just say that's a very, very conservative estimate. Let's say assume they can actually do that. This makes this whole multi-trillion-dollar deal of basically a lunar space station useless. Basically, the lunar gateway 100% useless. If you can carry that much payload to lunar surface itself, be mindful, surface itself, that's you will have complete lab. Tada, there is this lab. You don't have to think about it. It's no, there is a lab. Don't do radar research or long range. No. Here's a lab. Take it and go. Take it to lab. And they will not have one lunar vehicle. They could have a fleet. Yeah, we have 6-7 vehicles that can travel very long range. They can have giant solar farms where it's we have more than enough power to circulate even 15 days night time. They could do that. That's how much 75 ton is. So if it works out, if Starship actually works out, it will make this system unbearably expensive. And people might be like, okay, this does have one good thing, it will test out ion engines. I'm like, you can just launch this module itself with some other payload and just go YOLO it. It's and you have IS basically Starship, and if it works and it does have the 100-ton capacity, this can be the solar panel, the module, the propellant tank, all that can be packed into one system. It's take it and go for less price. So fundamentally, if it works out, 100% of lunar gateway is useless. Now, it does give NASA a very unique advantage, because this is the first time NASA is not playing conservatively. Every time till this point, it's everybody was so sure that other companies will win simply because it was the old way. It was tested way. That's how Saturn did it. That's how you landed it, you threw away a part and you came back. It's everything was old, everything was tested, everything was in 1970. Now this time NASA is doing something ballsy. It's no, why the heck we are stuck in the past? Let's try to do something new. In those sort of scenario, they have an opportunity here. So if government will fight, which they will, it's you should have this similar redundancy. You should give some other companies a chance, simply because again, those companies have a lot of pull to senators. NASA going to simply say, okay, we can give you that because you are not going to increase the budget. We can cut this puppy up. So there is an option. They can cut this puppy or SLS up. They can cut at least one of us. And given the fact that SLS can be used as a backup system in case of Starship failure, I'm pretty sure Lunar Gateway is the one that will get the axe. So this is the interesting way the NASA can play the politics for their advantage. Another aspect is you have to realize 2024 is not happening. That was a good joke. If we had a good laugh, it's not happening. It will take 2026 at best case scenario. At that time, I'm talking a idiotically high speed development, which may happen because SpaceX might be getting a lot of money. So it may happen that idiotically high speed development. But there's a old saying in rocket industry is 9 women cannot make a baby in 1 month. So it does take time. So be very mindful, relax. 2026 best case scenario. And I still would be surprised if they actually manage to put person on moon. And I'm pretty sure that would be just a trial run. Then they will be okay, now we are gonna bring the actual module and land and do all that stuff. So politics is very interesting. So calm down and let's have a look at it. What happens in the future? So this was my presentation on why SpaceX was chosen. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.